Good evening. I would call tonight's April 14th meeting of the Appropriations Committee to order at just past the hour of 7 o'clock. We have one approved absentee this evening, Tony Petit. We do have enough members for a quorum, so business will proceed as usual. If everyone will please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on our agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes of April 7th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Janice Hyde has made a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second?
Tim has made has seconded. So we have a motion that was made and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? We have no opposed and no abstentions. The motion to approve the minutes of April 7th passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is a review and approval of the committee's report to the town meeting. And I will turn this over to John Kadir to go through this with us.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So working with the chair, we put together and updated the committee's report. Format is very similar to years past. In the front here, and I hope everybody's had a chance to review the narrative in the beginning, I do want to say I would like one opportunity to have, the finance director was not in today, so I want him to triple check the numbers, but certainly if anybody notices anything or noticed anything prior to your meeting, please let us know. But it's a basic intro here following similar comments that you've made before, just reminding folks of the free cash policy, a little bit of the history, because I know people come and they attend town meeting, they don't necessarily know about policies, discussions that took place in 2010 that are driving and guiding the processes this committee follows, as well as financial planning. So a little bit of that history is in there as well. And then we've got a couple of paragraphs in here. One, just summarizing the really positive outcome on our health insurance. As you know, we're looking at a 1% budgetary increase this year, which leaves us with a over a decade average increase in our health insurance budget of 2.88, which is just absolutely phenomenal. So a lot of active management, as you know, has gone into that. The key budget increases for the K-8 school, general government, Algonquin, and Assabet are called out in here specifically because those are individual articles that you're making recommendations on. If you look on page 4 and 5, this is essentially the summary of the votes that you took at your meeting last week. So you have voted to unanimously recommend Articles 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, skipping 22, you're recommending 23, 24 through 32. And the balance of the articles are not financial in nature. They're zoning articles and things that this body, as a group, does not need to take a position on. As individuals at town meeting, you're welcome to vote however you feel on any of the articles that you haven't formally taken a position on. So it might be helpful tonight just to kind of walk through the balance of the pages, just so that folks can, if you have any comments in terms of the narrative. But each article that you have taken a position on, this is a format that the former chair had put together. So the article numbers in the left-hand column, the amount of the article is in the top left-hand quadrant. Your vote recommendation is the top right-hand quadrant. And then the bottom half of each of these little snippets, it just has a few bullets to follow. So Article 4 reminds people that there's a one-time or a limited $500,000 in free cash or 1% going into the operating budget per the policy. It's important to point that out because in fiscal 2021, we had $878,000 in one-time revenues, and that was due to the pandemic. Ultimately, we did not need to use that, but it was nice to have those reserves. So we're back in fiscal 22, but also in this budget, fiscal 23, we are back to the policy amount of $500,000. And the importance and the target of that $500,000 is it's essentially 1% or less of the operating budget. So if something bad were to happen, and we didn't generate a significant amount of free cash, we would have at least 1%, and we would not create a structural deficit by an over-reliance on one-time revenues in the operating budget. As part of the motion for Article 4, if you look in the warrant booklet, that's where we have the added $200,000 in free cash that's being transferred to the stabilization fund. With that transfer, after all of the expenditures for the roughly $2 million in pay-as-you-go capital, that would still have our reserves maintained at approximately 8%. Our policy is to maintain financial reserves between 5 and 10%. Moody's, Standard & Poor's, the bond rating agencies, would like to see us between 8 and 10%. The closer to 10%, the happier they get. And again, the financial reserves are on hand so that if we encounter some unanticipated financial circumstances, be it a storm, a pandemic, or a recession, we have those reserves and we'll be able to make good on our debt. So the general government budget is going up 3.65%, and that includes funding for the Norfolk Agricultural School tuition. As you know, we've got 2 students going to the Norfolk Agricultural School, and those fall into the general government side of the budget. I'm not sure why that is, but it happens. That's how that gets budgeted. So that's included. That's the reason why our target was 3.5%. So that delta to 3.65 are those Aggie students that got added in at the end of February. There's a statement here that overall the budgets that were presented were reasonable, they conform with town policies, and that we've endeavored to minimize the tax impact. So with the state aid numbers where they are and everything sort of flushing out to date, now we still don't know the legislature where they're at, but essentially we're looking at an estimated tax impact now of about $513. If you go back to the trend monitoring in December, that number was $560. So it's gone down a little bit as the 2 factors are a little bit more, well, state aid is roughly coming where it is, but the real big factor is that the high school assessment is essentially flat because of the shifting enrollment. And back in December, we had estimated a 3.5% increase for all budgets, so that's the delta there. As you know, that $513, the other thing that I'd point out there in that comment is that roughly half of that increase is due to just market adjustments. So the single-family homes are estimated to go up 10%. If you look at some of our neighboring communities, I know 2 of them have tax bills estimated to be well over $1,000 in increase this year. And the driving factor behind that is the escalating single-family home value. Bob, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I do. In the body of the text, you say that the average single-family tax bill of $295, but over here you say that the increase is now $500. So it might get a little confusing.
Where are you, Bob? Are you in the bullets under Article 4 section?
I am in the bullets of Article 4.
Okay.
And it says 513 on the average single-family home valued at 521. But if you go to the beginning of where you write the comments about final fiscal year 20 general fund budget results in increase in average single-family tax bill of $295.
That's 22.
Right, that was giving some
Isn't that
perspective.
this year?
So fiscal 22, the average single-family home tax bill was up $295. It's just a point of reference. And then the next line down, it discusses what's going on in fiscal 2023.
Okay, so we're telling everybody it was basically doubling.
Yeah. And essentially, the story here is it's doubling because the single-family home values are going up substantially.
Okay.
That's really the issue. If you think that's confusing, we can delete the reference to fiscal 2022.
Sorry.
Again, just following, I think we're just following the, sort of the template before. Usually it's sort of a recap of this is here where we wound up in the prior fiscal year, and this is what we're estimating for the upcoming fiscal year.
Yeah. It's clear.
Sure?
Yeah, it's just a little shocking, that's all, to me.
Well, it'd be a lot more shocking if you were in Shrewsbury or Westboro or Southboro, because it's gonna be up significantly more,
Yeah.
so. Through the chair, you got a question?
Oh, yes, Tim.
The only thing I wanted to point out with that is it's not, that increase isn't driven by increase in spending.
Correct.
It's an increase in the value of the homes and the way that the money needs to be collected in town. It's not that the budget has doubled, it's just that the way the money is collected, or the way the town collects revenue, it's driven by home values.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tim. It doesn't result in any additional tax revenues for us because it's, in part, it's a shifting between the single-family home values because they're escalating versus multifamily and commercial industrial. So if you go back to the prior recession when single-family home values were plummeting and commercial industrial was actually going up, we had years where the single-family home tax bill either went up $20 or actually went down one year.
No.
So these are normal market forces.
I understand the points, I'm just saying that someone, a layman would look at this and say, our taxes are doubling.
Well, they are, for a single-family home.
Right.
Again, we're just trying to be transparent and trying to do the best that we can, explaining the factors behind it. I think one of the things that's helpful is, as we always all tend to do, is like, well, what's happening in our neighboring communities when you see that the neighboring communities are talking about $1,100 or $1,300 increases for the same reason. It just is what it is. It's you know, I mean, think of it this way: if your assets, you know, appreciated in value by 10%, you got to pay the taxes on that increase. So the alternative is that your home doesn't increase in value. So.
No, that's fine, I'm just preparing you for possible questions on that. So,
Yeah, it is what it is, and that's why we try to explain, you know, what's happening. I think anybody right now who's paying attention at all and reading the paper realizes that if you could cash out on your home right now and you were ready to move down south or something, now would be the time to do it because the home values are through the roof and the demand is outstripping the availability of housing. So,
Yes, Tim.
I just wanted to point out, because it's just an important distinction to make, taxes aren't doubling.
correct.
The increase last year was $295. The increase this year is going to be, was it 513?
513, yep.
So it's the increase that's double. It's not like your taxes are going from $8,000 a year to $16,000.
It's about a 6% increase for a single-family home.
Right.
Right. So, but again, the single-family homes have been going up, between 5 and 10%, each year. So, it is what it is. So, we had, like I said, years prior in the last recession when the housing bubble popped and commercial industrial was going up. Our single-family home taxes were flat, and one year actually went down. So. These are the normal market forces. We don't, some towns will try to artificially manipulate the tax bills and shift the taxes around, but the market is what it is. And again, if your asset is appreciating, you're gonna pay a little bit more. If you look at it, one other way to look at it is that, Northborough is a very desirable community, which in part is driving up the home values and the scarcity. Bang for your buck, we're still one of the best. Yeah. So just continuing on, there's just a outline of those budgets. All right, let me go back to Article 5 is the water and sewer enterprise funds and the solid waste enterprise funds. So again, you had those presentations with you. We're just spelling out the individual funds, and then overall, the enterprise funds are actually down for a variety of reasons, about negative 4.7% overall, mostly due to the MWRA assessment falling back because of the pandemic. K-8 schools, again, 3.4%. The Algonquin is, as I said, relatively flat between the operating assessment and the debt assessment. They're only up 0.28%, or $38,000. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is I think this is going to be a very good year for us because the House and the Senate just released their minimum aid numbers. So the minimum aid per student increase is $30. The town asked for $100, the MMA asked for $100, but it looks like the House and the Senate are talking about $60. So at the end of the state aid process, and again, we won't know what our final state aid numbers are until well after town meeting. If I were a betting man, my suspicion would be that overall, our assessment for the high school will actually be negative. Not by much, but I think it'll be negative because they are going to get a little bit more in state aid. And it's only going up, it's only going up $21,000 on the operating budget side right now. So I think the increase, a little bit more in state aid will negate that. So we'll actually see probably a negative. And we may have a little bit more information by the time we get to town meeting. Next, you've got Assabet Valley. The whole story there is overall, the operating and debt assessment is up 17.36%, or $185,450, and that is due to the fact that we're sending 9 more kids there, and that's really the story. And again, we're trying to hit the high points in terms of like 2 or 3 bullets on each of these. So if anybody has any comments, if you think a bullet is relevant or irrelevant or should be better explained, by all means we can do that. Article 9 is the reauthorization of revolving funds. It's a housekeeping matter. That's actually part of the consent agenda. Article 10 is your Appropriation Committee's reserve fund, which is $175,000. And, typically, that's been the amount. In 2021, we added another $200,000 to that on a one-time basis because of the pandemic. I'm happy to report we didn't use it. The nice thing about this is the funding source is free cash, so available funds. So it's set aside in an account that this committee can use for unanticipated expenses during the year. If you don't use it, it just rolls back to free cash. So right now, that $175,000 level has been pretty much where we've been for the last 5-6 years, with the exception of fiscal 2021. Most often, that is used for snow and ice or storm overdrafts, things that you can't predict, which is actually a good telegraph to you that after town meeting and prior to the close of the fiscal year, we will be coming to you for some year-end transfers out of your fiscal 22 appropriated reserve account. Primarily for snow and ice overdraft. We had a lot of snow events and a lot of salting. The salt is what killed us this year. So we anticipate that those overdrafts will fall within the $175,000. As we do every year, we try to deal with any overages within the current fiscal year, even though snow and ice is one of the only accounts that you legally could kick to the next year, because nobody knows what's going to happen with snow. We budget a 6-year rolling average, so we're realistic. We don't under budget, and in all the time that I've been the town administrator, 14 years or so, we've always managed any of those overdrafts within the current fiscal year through transfers. So, but anyway, that's your reserve account. Then you move into the capital items. You got 3 police cruisers for $165,000. The fire ambulance replacement for $400,000. Unlike most of these, they're being funded with free cash, so there's no additional tax impact. And so we've indicated on the bullets for each one that has no additional tax impact. With regard to Article 12, the ambulance replacement, that is a debt authorization. More than likely, what we do with those is we float bond anticipation notes, and usually we're able to pay it off before we have to issue permanent debt. So it's just a way of smoothing out the payment plan for the EMS revolving fund, which is essentially, ambulance user fees. Article 13 is $454,000 for the roadway maintenance. As you know, our target is $1.1 million each year. Last couple of years, we've had a few culverts we've had to replace, so typically this is $300,000, so we had good free cash this year, so we increased it a little bit, as you know. That'll help get us back on track. Article 14 is $300,000 for culvert replacements. If we cannot get a grant or an earmark, more than likely at $300,000, we'll pay for the Lincoln Street culvert, which is in need of replacement. Article 15 is $130,000 for the truck. Article 16 is $340,000 for one of the really large 20-ton dump trucks. These last about 20 years, as you well know. And we replace one of those every other year. We have 10 of them. Article 17 is a loader replacement. Article 18 is the backhoe replacement for $195,000. 19 is $154,000 for the master plan, downtown master plan study. So as you all know, coming out of the town-wide master plan that was completed in 2020, the top priority of the implementation committee was to look at a downtown revitalization project that begins with a focused scope of services that looks at the downtown and does a whole visioning process for the downtown. So that's Article 19. Article 20 is the sewer inflow and infiltration. This is the actual fixing of the leaks that we detect in our system. And that will have no additional tax impact or any additional impact on the fee structure that's coming out of essentially fund balance or free cash for the sewer enterprise fund. Article 21 is the repurchase of 4 West Main Street for $10,000 if necessary. If the $10,000 is necessary. That's just the town exercising its right of repurchase under the 40-year-old agreement. And then you have Articles 23 through 32, which are the Community Preservation Act articles. There's not a lot of explanation here, given that the Community Preservation will be making their own presentation on these, but they total just over $2 million in appropriations. And this committee voted to recommend approval of the Community Preservation Act articles. I should also mention, just for the record, that the Financial Planning Committee unanimously recommended approval of all of the capital articles. And then at their meeting on Monday, the Board of Selectmen recommended approval of the operating budget articles, which are Articles 4 through 8. So they tend to take a position on the operating budgets. I think in part they do that because they set the table in terms of policies, in terms of tax increases and trend monitoring, and the fact that every operating budget on the general government side, as well as the schools, came in within the forecasts and the template that we laid out back in December. So the board has recommended approval. So based on the actions that have already been taken, I'm pleased to report tonight that going to town meeting, this will be, I think, our 14th or our 15th year where we've had unanimous support and a recommendation of approval for all operating budgets, all capital projects, and all CPC articles. So that's it. It shows that we have a good process, and as I say every year, I can maybe put a quick one by you, maybe 1 year. By the second year, you might catch me, but after a decade and a half, it's the process, and it's the information, and it's the planning, and it's the policies, and it's the procedures that are playing out and panning out for us. So that essentially is the report. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments. Typically, the way this would work is, again, the bulk of the report is just simply stating the votes that you've taken and given the information in terms of what the budgets are. It's just factual in nature. If anything, the only editorial type statements is made in the transmittal letter, which Rick worked on. So at this point, through the chair, I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments or amendments that you'd like to make to your report. As long as there isn't anything substantive, as I said, I would like the finance director, who is out today, to check all the numbers one more time. Again, this is your report. We want it to be accurate, but it's the warrant that will get voted on, not the report. But I would just like to have one more set of eyes go through the numbers, make sure that there's no typos or transposed numbers or anything like that. So typically, we'd ask that the committee would recommend the report, but allow the chair to make any minor edits that are necessary if we find a typo or a transposed number or something like that.
I think I'd like to question one article, I believe it's Article 43, the citizens petition for the Gold Star parents. This is something I questioned last year, because if this article passes, it will have a detrimental effect on the taxes of every taxpayer in town. And we've seen that for the average family home, if just one person signs up for this, it can mean over a 10-year period, anywhere of $100,000 to $200,000 impact that the rest of the town will have to absorb. And that's just for one family. We don't know how many families will take advantage of this. There aren't many towns that are doing this, which makes our town look much better to move to. And it could show an influx over time. And because this is a tax impact, I think our committee should take a stance on it. Do I have any comments from the committee on this?
I would just say that, so this was an article that was placed on here by the Board of Selectmen last year. It did not pass at town meeting, as you all know. The board did not place it on the warrant this year. It came through as a citizen's petition. And so last year, the Appropriations Committee didn't take a formal position on it. I know some of you spoke as individuals. So again, there's no right or wrong on this. It really comes down to what the desire of the committee is.
Tim?
I would support it. I think it's the least the town could do for people that have made that sort of sacrifice for the country. I think last year when the presentation was made, there was a lot of open ends to it and a lot of questions. I'm hoping that this year they've addressed a lot of those questions. What are the qualifications? How many people can be on it? How many people in town would be on it? I think when you start to aggregate things over the course of, to your point, 10, 20 years, and you get $100,000 to $200,000, that's against over 10 to 20 years of $70 million per year budget. So you're looking at $700 to $1.4 billion in budgetary dollars. So to spend $100,000 to $200,000 to give people that have lost loved ones.
I think my big comment this year is we've seen the economy is kind of going downhill. We've had it's going to be like that for a while to come. This bill is only going to increase that. We have over 30% of our town is elderly and on fixed incomes, and this could be that one straw that breaks their back. My big thing about this bill to begin with was that it's not fair, and that it only applies to the parents that own a home. If they have a condo, if they have an apartment, if they're in assisted living, they get nothing. It's the other thing I've seen is that this should also apply to police and fire, not just the servicemen, because this applies for if it was a person that was killed in combat, that would really mean something. But this, just if you die in the service, and you die at home. I don't see why that makes any difference, because you died in the service, why anyone should get these benefits. And it's mostly to parents that are pretty well, if they have a home, their mortgage is paid or just about paid, and it's just giving away free money that doesn't benefit the servicemen or any other servicemen. It's actually going, like I said last year, it's going against the policies. The serviceman is there, he fought for his country, his state, his town, his family, and in his death, if he knew his death was going to cause harm to those people he left behind, I think we're going against these actual servicemen's wishes. So I myself personally, I still couldn't go for this article the way it's written by the state.
If I may, just a couple of statements. One, just so we're clear, this is a statute that was written by a legislator. It is a local option. We do not have the authority to add any constraints. It's not means tested. We don't have the ability to put any limits on it. You either accept it or you don't. But what I was going to suggest is, why don't I send you some information so everybody has the information? And my suggestion would be just hear the debate and at town meeting, it's a citizen's petition at this point, and just vote as you would.
And again, the state isn't giving any kind of help on this. They just said, well, go ahead and do it. It's no skin off of our nose because we're not paying for it.
Yeah, there are exemptions for surviving spouses and children. So those exemptions are already existing. So this is just adding in for parents. So why don't I give you there's some packet of information with the details, and so why don't I get that to you folks, and then you can make an informed decision at what you want to do at town meeting.
I think one way of mean testing that really isn't discussed, if you have a young serviceman who actually is killed in battle or dies early in his career, the parents, they can be in their mid-30s. That's one thing. They're very young, probably just starting out themselves with a home. But you have some lifetime career people. They're in their 60s, 50s, and 60s, and they're still going to, their parents, they're still going to get this after all that time. These people have been enlisted knowing this could happen to them. Same as our police and our fire. So.
I think the toughest thing about this is you either accept it as it's written or you don't. The town has no authority to add any a means test or any other constraints on it. You either accept it or you don't. But let me get you, so everybody has the actual information. I'll get you that information, and then you can listen to the presentation at town meeting and make your own informed decision, would be my recommendation.
Just as a side note, nothing to do with that, but when I was in the service, people joined for many reasons. But I had several people in my group that joined just to get rid of their parents, to get away from their parents. They're abusive and everything else. So there's no, like I said, there's no means testing on this. You don't know, in that case, why would you give something to the parents?
Again, it's a citizen's petition, so.
So, any other conversation on that? I look for a motion to accept all the articles that we spoke about tonight. Yes, Janice?
Make motion. I move to approve the committee's draft report as presented and to authorize the chair in conjunction with the town administrator to make any additional minor edits as needed. Second.
Okay, second.
Okay, Janice made a motion to recommend approval of the articles we discussed tonight. Bob D'Amico has seconded that. All in favor? All opposed? No opposition? The motion passes unanimously.
So if you get home tonight and you're having trouble sleeping and you want to read it one more time or tomorrow, and please look at it very closely. So if you see anything, if you let the chairman know, don't email everybody. Just that you can email the chair and with a copy to me. our intention is this would go to the printers, this would go up on the website, and go to the printers on Monday and put it up on the website on Monday so people can see what your recommendations are in advance of town meeting. There will be printed hard copies available at town meeting as well, so people can follow along.
We'll make one note for those of you who have watched this and have seen that we've met with all these various department heads and with all the school committees and the schools going over this budget. For those of you who haven't watched this and know how we've operated, a lot of people say, well, you rubber stamp everything. We've heard this for many years. Everything we've approved again tonight, we haven't disapproved anything. All the budgets came in very minimal. We have met with all the committees, and this is our best recommendation, and we've worked with all the other committees as well. So I'd just like to point out that this is not a rubber stamp. We've all done our due diligence on this. So the next article is to set our next meeting date, which will be on Monday, April 25th at 5 p.m. at the Algonquin High School.
So that's the night of town meeting. So April 25th is town meeting. Town meeting, again, I keep saying this to everybody, 6 p.m., 6 p.m. Used to be 7, for been like me for 20 years. It's 6 p.m. now. So our meeting, all of the boards typically will schedule, I will schedule you a meeting for 5 o'clock, an hour before the town meeting. And that's just in case something happens, some late-breaking news. It allows a chance for that to get communicated, and if you want an opportunity for you to modify your recommendations if need be. At a minimum, you'll meet and approve. You've got a couple, probably another set or two of minutes to get caught up on, and so we'll get you the information with regard to the room that you'll be meeting in. But 5 p.m. the night of town meeting, and hopefully we'll be done by 5:30 if there's nothing to really do, and then you'll be back off to town meeting. So, all right. One other thing, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know I sent you a communication, but just again, making sure everybody understands the ARPA public input session that was planned for tonight. The Board of Selectmen at their meeting on Monday voted to move it. They're going to discuss the format of that meeting at their May 23rd meeting, which is their only meeting in May, following town meeting and the election. And the intent is to schedule the actual ARPA meeting for sometime probably mid-June. They want to get it in while school's still in session before everybody goes on vacation, with enough notice for people to take advantage of that. So
Now, that money can be spent without without having to go to town meeting? Or
yes,
this will be after
it's
town meeting?
it's considered a grant, and it's under the authority of the Board of Selectmen. Yep.
Do you have any comments, questions, anything from the committee?
Will the chairman entertain a motion to adjourn?
Not yet. Bob has,
Well, the configuration of the selectmen could change at that point.
Yes, it could. Well, keep in mind,
He
it's,
actually puts it over to the other side.
yes. So it's remember, this is the funding is really going to be expended over, 2 fiscal years with the, it would be appropriated or released, and then we have a couple of years to spend the money once it's committed. So, this is more than just a 1 year. I refer to it as one-time revenues, and they are one-time, but they're just to be used over a 2 fiscal years, because there's 2 tranches. It was released in $4.5 million. Half of it was released, we already have. The other half will come to us shortly, probably sometime this month or next month. But it'll be committed over the next 2 years, and it has to be expended by, I believe, December 31st of 2026. So,
I was just commenting, I just found it funny that they delayed it after the election. That's why it's a little strange. Okay,
well,
I'm a suspicious person.
well, the trouble there was, I picked the 14th because I looked at a calendar, and that was really the only place we could have done it if you wanted to do it before town meeting, and before the election. If you wanted to do it soon, it would have to be the 14th. It was on the heels of, school vacation week, and
probably-
and Holy Thursday, and so it's fine. And there's nothing, in terms of the timing, there's nothing pressing. We've delayed it enough that we're not gonna get the orders for the equipment in any advantageous way at that point, so we'll be in the same mix with everybody else if the money gets released, so.
Any other comments, or I'll entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Jan has made a motion to adjourn, Bob D'Amico seconded, all in favor? All opposed? Seeing no opposition, the motion to adjourn passes unanimously. So I will adjourn this meeting of April 14th, Appropriations Committee at 7:43, 7:43, I'm sorry.